Imagine a warrior so fierce he nearly conquered all of India, yet after one blood-soaked battle, he renounced violence forever and became history's greatest advocate for peace. Welcome to this deep dive into the life and legacy of King Ashoka, the emperor who transformed from ruthless conqueror to enlightened ruler. His journey is one of the most dramatic in all of ancient history, and in this video, we're unpacking the fascinating twists that shaped his reign. From the brutal battle of Kalinga to the spreading of Buddhism across Asia, Ashoka's story is filled with lessons about power, responsibility, and redemption. Whether you're a history buff or someone who loves powerful stories of transformation, you won't want to miss this one. And hey, if you love discovering the untold truths behind legendary figures like Ashoka, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a moment of the action. Let's travel back to 3rd century before Common Era India and explore a ruler who changed the world not through war, but through wisdom. 1. The rise of a warrior prince. Ashoka was born into the powerful Mauryan dynasty around 304 BCE. A royal child destined for greatness, but not originally next in line for the throne. As a youth, he displayed military brilliance and ruthless ambition, quickly earning a reputation for crushing rebellions and enforcing order. His father, Emperor Bindusara, recognized his strength and sent him to quell uprisings across the empire, where Ashoka's tactics were effective but often merciless. When Bindusara died, a brutal struggle for succession ensued, with Ashoka eventually emerging victorious after allegedly killing several of his brothers. He ascended the throne and became the 3rd ruler of the Mauryan Empire, with his capital in Pataliputra. Despite a violent path to power, Ashoka proved to be a capable administrator who expanded the empire to unprecedented levels. His military campaigns reached far into modern-day Afghanistan and Bangladesh. At this stage in his life, Ashoka believed that might and fear were the tools of strong leadership. He was admired by allies and feared by enemies. The subcontinent bowed before his dominance. But his transformation had not yet begun. That moment would arrive with a battle so brutal, it shook the emperor to his core. 2. The bloodbath of Kalinga. The turning point in Ashoka's life came with the conquest of Kalinga, a small but fiercely independent kingdom located along the eastern coast of India. Kalinga had resisted Mauryan rule, and Ashoka launched a full-scale invasion to subdue it once and for all. The war was devastating, resulting in the deaths of over 100,000 soldiers and civilians, with another 150,000 reportedly displaced. The rivers ran red, and the cries of the wounded echoed across the battlefield. It was said that even victorious soldiers wept at the carnage. But the one most affected was Ashoka himself. After the battle, he walked through the scorched land, seeing the human cost of his ambition firsthand. The suffering and destruction brought him no joy, only guilt and horror. This moment planted a seed of change deep within his heart. He began to question the true purpose of power. Was it glory through war or responsibility through compassion? From the ashes of Kalinga, a new Ashoka would emerge, one that would change the course of Indian history forever. He saw mothers searching for their children and fathers sobbing over unrecognizable corpses. The air was thick with sorrow, and even Ashoka's hardened generals looked away. His soul, once steeled by conquest, cracked under the weight of grief. 3. Embracing Buddhism. Haunted by the massacre of Kalinga, Ashoka sought solace in a new path, Buddhism. He turned to the teachings of the Buddha, embracing nonviolence, compassion, and mindfulness. Though Buddhism had already existed for centuries, Ashoka's conversion elevated it to an imperial philosophy. He became a lay follower and studied under monks who guided him in principles of Dharma, or righteous living. He took a vow to never wage war again, replacing swords with sermons and soldiers with scholars. Ashoka promoted ahimsa, or non-harming, as a core value not only in his personal life, but in governance. He began supporting Buddhist institutions and built stupas, monasteries, and schools throughout the empire. His endorsement gave the religion a new sense of legitimacy and influence. Under his reign, Buddhism spread far and wide, eventually reaching Sri Lanka, Nepal, and parts of Central Asia. Ashoka's transformation wasn't just spiritual, it was political. He turned his empire into a vehicle for peace and education, rewriting what it meant to be a ruler. He encouraged ethical treatment of animals, and even banned animal sacrifices in the royal court. Vegetarianism became common among the elite, and kindness became policy. 4. The Edicts of Ashoka. Rather than rely solely on temples or scriptures, Ashoka communicated his ideals through stone. He issued a series of edicts carved into rocks and pillars across his empire, some of which still stand today. These inscriptions weren't mere royal decrees, they were personal messages from a transformed king to his people. Written in local languages and scripts, they emphasized morality, kindness, tolerance, and religious harmony. Ashoka addressed topics such as animal welfare, justice for prisoners, and the fair treatment of servants. In one edict, he expressed regret for the suffering caused by the Kalinga War, asking future generations to learn from his mistake. His messages were meant to reach every corner of his vast empire from the Himalayas to southern India. The edicts showcased a ruler deeply invested in ethics over conquest. They represent one of the earliest examples of a state using media to shape public values. Through these stones, Ashoka's voice still speaks, carrying a message of peace across the millennia. These edicts were not reserved for the elite. They were placed where common people could read and reflect upon them. Some edicts even reference foreign nations, showing Ashoka's interest in global diplomacy. He insisted that the principles of compassion and justice were universal, not just Indian values. In a time when rulers were feared, Ashoka wanted to be understood and remembered as kind. 5. The Dharmic State. Ashoka envisioned a state governed by Dharma ethical living rather than religious dominance. Though he personally followed Buddhism, he respected and protected all religions within his empire. He encouraged tolerance between sects, urging people to understand rather than attack each other's beliefs. Officials called Dharma Mahamatras were appointed to promote moral conduct and welfare among the people. These envoys travelled across regions, even outside the empire, to spread principles of compassion and duty. Ashoka reformed legal systems, making justice more equitable and less punitive. He emphasized education and encouraged critical thinking rooted in ethical understanding. This vision of a dharmic state was revolutionary, especially in a time where rulers often enforced their own religions. Ashoka's model became a benchmark for just governance in ancient India. It wasn't about fear, it was about trust and virtue. He proved that an empire could be held together not by weapons, but by shared values. His Dharma was not rigid or dogmatic. It was inclusive and rooted in empathy. Ashoka even discouraged pointless rituals that distracted from moral living. He believed true religion was shown through actions, not ceremonies. This inclusivity fostered a multicultural society, one where people of different faiths lived in peace. 6. Expansion through peace. After renouncing war, Ashoka didn't stop expanding his influence, he just changed the method. Instead of military conquest, he sent diplomatic missions and Buddhist emissaries to neighbouring kingdoms. His son Mahinda and daughter Sanghamitta famously travelled to Sri Lanka, where they introduced Buddhism and helped establish it as a major faith. Similar missions were sent to Burma, Thailand, and Central Asia. Ashoka's legacy grew not through armies, but through ideas and culture. He exchanged gifts with kings, shared medical knowledge, and built roads and hospitals. Under his rule, trade flourished and international relations improved. He invested in infrastructure that connected people and ideas rather than dividing them. His peaceful expansion marked one of the earliest examples of soft power in history. Ashoka demonstrated that influence earned through respect and dialogue could be more enduring than that gained through war. His name became known in lands far beyond India, not as a conqueror, but as a philosopher king. Art and architecture also traveled with his emissaries, spreading Mauryan styles abroad. He inspired other leaders to consider non-violent governments. Ashoka redefined power in the ancient world, showing it could be wielded with restraint. 7. Welfare for all. Ashoka's reign saw unprecedented investment in public welfare. He believed that rulers were the caretakers of their subjects, and their happiness was the ruler's duty. Hospitals were constructed for both people and animals, a progressive idea even by today's standards. Trees were planted along roads for shade, and wells were dug to provide water for travelers. Rest houses were built, and medicine was made available to all, regardless of status. He mandated the humane treatment of servants and workers, setting standards for fair labor practices. Ashoka's public works extended beyond material support to education and moral guidance. He supported scholars and encouraged philosophical discourse. His emphasis on welfare reflected his Buddhist values and his belief in the sanctity of all life. This approach transformed the Mauryan Empire into not just a powerful realm, but a humane one. He ensured that his policies reached remote villages as well as major cities. Animal sanctuaries were established to promote compassion. Public records of charity and governance were maintained for transparency. He encouraged nobles to donate land for community purposes. Welfare under Ashoka was not just charity, it was a system of moral obligation. The ruler saw himself as a servant of the people, not their master. His vision of compassionate governance made his empire a beacon of humane leadership in the ancient world. 8. Ashoka's family and succession. While Ashoka left an indelible mark on history, his later years were also filled with challenges, particularly regarding succession. After the deaths of his children, including the missionary Mahinda, the question of who would carry forward his legacy became uncertain. His surviving sons were said to lack the spiritual and moral depth their father had achieved. Some historical accounts mention a struggle for power after Ashoka's death, leading to the eventual decline of the Mauryan Empire. Despite his efforts, his reforms did not fully endure under his successors. Yet his children's role in spreading Buddhism left a permanent impact on religious history. Ashoka's struggle to ensure lasting peace within his own family contrasts sharply with the peace he promoted across his empire. This humanizes him, a ruler torn between personal loss and imperial vision. Though his dynasty waned, his ideas endured. He reportedly had hundreds of wives and concubines, making the issue of succession even more complicated. Some sources suggest internal court rivalries worsened after his death. The empire, once bound by Ashoka's moral leadership, lacked unity in his absence. Even his grandchildren failed to live up to the ideals he tried to instill. Ultimately, Ashoka's legacy lived on more in spirit than through bloodline. 9. The decline of the Mauryan Empire. After Ashoka's death around 232 BCE, the Mauryan Empire began to unravel. Without a leader of his caliber, the vast territories became difficult to govern. Regional governors grew powerful and began asserting independence. Successors lacked Ashoka's moral authority and administrative genius. Over the next 50 years, the empire slowly fractured into smaller kingdoms. However, the collapse of political unity did not mean the end of Ashoka's influence. Buddhism, now firmly rooted in Asia, continued to spread and evolve. His inscriptions continued to teach and guide long after the fall of his empire. The decline serves as a reminder that even the greatest legacies require guardianship. Ashoka's dream of a moral state had planted seeds that would bloom far beyond his borders. Some rulers who followed attempted to revive his policies, but lacked the charisma to inspire the masses. Trade routes broke down and infrastructure declined. The political vacuum led to invasions and unrest. Yet monasteries built during Ashoka's time remained centers of learning. His moral blueprint survived, even as his empire vanished from the map. 10. The eternal flame of Ashoka's legacy. Ashoka's name faded from Indian memory for centuries, only to be rediscovered by British archaeologists in the 19th century through his stone edicts. What they found reshaped our understanding of ancient India. Today, Ashoka is a national symbol. The Ashoka Chakra, a 24-spoke wheel from his edicts, stands proudly at the center of India's national flag. His lion capital is now India's official emblem. More than these symbols, his legacy lives in the values he championed: tolerance, nonviolence, and justice. He remains one of the few ancient rulers celebrated not for conquest, but for conscience. Around the world, historians admire him as a pioneer of ethical governance. His life is taught not only in India, but across Buddhist nations as a model of righteous leadership. King Ashoka proves that true greatness lies in knowing when to lay down the sword. And in doing so, he carved a legacy not in blood, but in stone and spirit. In modern times, scholars revisit his ideas to explore ancient models of sustainable governance. His influence can be felt in India's moral foreign policy traditions. Global leaders cite Ashoka when discussing peaceful statecraft. Schools, roads, and awards have been named in his honor. And above all, his message continues to inspire those who believe power should serve humanity, not dominate it. And that's a wrap on the incredible story of King Ashoka, the emperor who proved that true strength lies not in domination, but in compassion. From brutal beginnings to a reign defined by peace and Dharma, Ashoka's life still echoes in modern conversations about leadership and morality. If this journey through ancient India gave you something to think about, or opened your eyes to a new side of history, then go ahead and subscribe for more captivating stories like this one. Drop a comment sharing your favorite part of Ashoka's transformation, and don't forget to give this video a like to help more curious minds find it. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep exploring the powerful legacies that shaped our world.